up and down again. Men.
What's up, guys? Today we're talking about 28 Years Later, directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. The British Isles are still under quarantine 28 years after the events of 28 Days Later, as continental Europe has completely eradicated the infected. We meet Spike Williams, a 12-year-old who embarks with his father Jamie, Taylor Johnson, on a coming-of-age ritual outside their island home into the infected mainland. Spike's mother Isla, Comer, is a troubled and sick woman who Spike, once the veil to actual reality is lifted, decides to break free from their fortified community in search of a cure for his mother outside the quarantine zone. But before we get into it, I'm going to go ahead and drop a spoiler warning. So now's your time to pause this video, go watch it, and then come back and let me tell you how to feel about it. Now, memento mori. Having first seen 28 Days Later earlier this year and having really connected with Cillian Murphy's Jim and the other characters in the movie, the hype for 28 Years Later was real. The way that Boyle and Garland explored humanity in the rage virus-laden world of Great Britain in the post 9/11 apocalyptic 2002 film was off-putting at first, mainly the way they shot the film and how it looks today on modern technology, but clearly innovative and exciting as the movie expanded its sights and world building. It's a movie full of emotion, drama, and emphatic might. 28 Years Later aims for those heights, but doesn't quite meet them. The movie's opening is strong, set during the initial outbreak event of 28 Days Later in the Scottish Highlands, a beautiful setting to film. Children huddle in fear around a television set watching Teletubbies, already imagery ripe for horror, as the infected crash through the door and tear into their young flesh. It wants you to feel frightened, but it's not frightening. I'll get into why later. A blonde-haired boy escapes to a nearby church, his father inside claiming that the infected are the rapturous salvation of Christ. Clutching his father's cross as the infected rush into the church, Jimmy watches in terror at what unfolds. Flash forward. The movie is structurally sound, essentially a coming-of-age film, but one that is very, very bleak given its setting. It's like an even darker Wizard of Oz, even Return to Oz, with our main character meeting wacky characters a la The Hero's Journey. The first third is all about the father-son arc between Spike and Jamie, and Taylor Johnson and Williams' chemistry do shine throughout this, with some Robin Hood flair. Their island community clearly carries a conservative religious bent, stuck in time and outside of modern reality. Father and son trudge across a watery causeway that leads them to the mainland where they hunt the infected. This scene in particular is visually arresting, as the community was founded upon this islet due to the fact you can only traverse it during low tide, effectively creating a moat to deter zombies, but also effectively keeping other ideologies out. All of these ideas presented are clever, if familiar, but what became immediately clear to me is that it felt tonally imbalanced. This is in part due to the editing, but also I think to Boyle's directing and storytelling styles. The frenetic energy of the original is here, but it's missing the punch it wants you to feel. Garland's writing may be partially to blame, though the more I ponder this movie, the more I admire his ideas. As someone fascinated with film, this movie is a great case study for how a screenplay can translate to the screen, and how responsible a director is for those pieces working. I admired the way they swung for the fences with the editing and storytelling, and there are some cool ideas like the intercut footage of the archers, old archival footage, and especially the found footagey infrared imagery of the deer and the infected slugs crawling around. When it works, it's harrowing. When it doesn't, it's boring and weird. Anthony Dodd Mantle returns as cinematographer, and while the cinematography mostly worked for me, I liked his work in the second half of the movie more than the first. This may have been in part to all of the innovative camera choices, which I'm not going to deny make the movie more exciting in some regards. My favorite shot of the movie is the wide angle with the alpha zombie looming in the bottom center, ominously surveying the land. It's a hauntingly beautiful image, and one that summarizes the best parts of 28 Years Later. I liked Alfie Williams' performance as Spike, probably the best of the film after Ralph Fiennes. He is subjected to many terrors throughout, and he did very well in those moments, even if the movie didn't make it abundantly clear why Jamie and their cultish community do this to children. Is it simply to help lift the veil or turn him into a killing machine? Spike's relationship is so different between his mother and father. It's like he's being bred into a weapon on the religious island. Williams carries the emotional weight of the movie on his shoulders, shoulders, and he does so adeptly. I'm not a huge fan of Taylor Johnson as an actor. He's not bad, I just don't connect with him. Jamie is kind of an asshole, which I know is the point. Spike is forced to grow up so quickly, having two absentee parents, one by choice as he spots his father drunk at the after party of his successful hunting trip, performing cunnilingus on a woman who is definitely not Spike's mother. But Spike is toughened now, and he knows it. Being able to survive a battle with the newly specialized alpha zombie, and what a piece on that guy, Christ almighty. He feels empowered to escape with mom in tow to take action and find Dr. Kelson and seek help, because dad isn't going to save them. From here, the movie is much more brisk and entertaining. The pregnancy scene in the train car with Jodie Comer's Isla and the pregnant infected is gut-wrenchingly beautiful, and one of the best horror moments in a movie in recent memory. Comer's performance throughout the movie is understated, maybe by design, but she worked well for me. The way she connects with this monster shows the humanity of these seemingly lost creatures, and more so exposes the dangers and violence of humans when Swedish soldier Eric wants to kill the baby after killing the infected mother. One starts to empathize with the infected as the alpha crashes the party and, as established in a previous visual motif, rips Eric's head and spine out of his body. Really cool visual touch there. The evolution of the zombies in this movie is awesome. The ways they have speciesated into their own unique race and have managed to exist for this long unfolds effectively on screen. They feel more like an organized herd of animals, which is funny because there's a stampede sequence that sets off the rising action in the first act. Especially effective on screen are the obese, slug-like zombies. The scene where one chews on Spike's shoelace in his sleep gave me nightmares. I awoke from a dream the following night where one of them was chewing off a child's toes. Great elaboration on the world and garners exciting potential for the coming sequels. Ralph Fiennes enters the picture like a blood-drenched bat out of hell as Dr. Ian Kelson. More like iodine-drenched, as per his determination this helps deter the spread of the rage virus and the infected. He looks crazy, and his line deliveries are often hilarious, adding a much-needed humor to a movie that is so tonally imbalanced towards dread and terror. His sections are amongst the movie's best, and his performance was a revelation. I'm not sure if they got tired in the editing bay here or what, but the movie and cinematography became much more understated in these acts, even hallucinogenic in the third act, in a good way. Isla and Spike arrive with the infected newborn baby seemingly clear of the virus and thus sins of the parents, religious allegory. I love the design of Dr. Kelson's bone temple, especially the way Kelson explains the memento mori idea to Spike. Perhaps the movie's best and most comforting message, and thematically that all worked for me. Doctors are likely scorned to some degree in the society Spike was raised in, so Kelson being such a warm and inviting presence is surprising. He even seems to have an affection for the infected, choosing to heavily sedate the alpha as opposed to killing it, affectionately referring to him as Samson. More religious allegory. There highlights Boyle's reverence for nature, imagery to prove it abundant in the film. Perhaps the most polarizing moment of the movie here is when it's revealed that Isla has terminal cancer, explaining her erratic behavior through the first and second acts. This was confusing to me as it seemed that she was relatively lucid. She saves a sleeping Spike from an infected sluggo previously while he's sleeping in badass fashion. More like she was struggling with undiagnosed depression, maybe some severe bipolar disorder. Felt cheap as fuck, like Garland was like symbolically someone must die and it has to be the mom and it has to be cancer. How do we still not have a cure for this? But the way the scene unfolded felt so weird. Admittedly, I did tear up once Kelson gave her the morphine blow dart to just fall asleep and die peacefully, but when they did the same to sedate Alfie, things got strange. The editing was odd here too because it felt like a drug trip and less of a goodbye to his mother. The swirling imagery of bonfires and sparks repeated too much too. It seems like maybe if he's a doctor he could give her some medication, and instead of essentially giving up and creating more immediate trauma for Spike, she could have lived out the rest of her days kicking zombie ass like before. I don't know, it felt tired. I don't like that it made me cry, only for me to then see a scene of a young boy nodding off due to drug exposure. Again, it's so goddamn uneven mood-wise. The depiction of grief was supposed to be sublimely beautiful, but it didn't land like they intended. From there, the movie wraps up pretty quickly. Spike, freshly traumatized from losing his innocence, alienating himself from his past, Jamie, the father, in his islet home, and the death of his mother, returns baby Isla, nice symmetry, to his homeland. The movie flash forwards 28 days later as a group of infected chase Spike to a rock wall, and in head-banging fashion we are reintroduced to Jimmy, the young boy from the movie's intro, now an adult and played by Jack O'Connell, who I was stoked to see after his amazing turn as Remick in Ryan Coogler's Sinners. Donned in Teletubby-esque tracksuits and garish, sparkling jewelry, Jimmy and his band of, well, Jimmies, apparently fashioned after British celebrity Jimmy Savile, who contextually to British audiences may have more impact culturally, but I still recommend to my fellow Americans Googling him. Save Spike from a group of infected. Then the credits roll, cliffhanger left open. All in all, a ballsy way to end a film, but one that makes sense. I don't know, I actually kind of liked this part. It had so much personality in comparison to other parts of the film. I'm not sure why people didn't like this. It also can't be a coincidence that the main character of 28 Days Later is named Jim. Now we have Jimmy, a Jimmy Savile reference, and then a child potentially falling prey to the cultish Jimmies. Could this be like a QAnon, Andrew Tate type angle? 28 Years Later has so many cool ideas, but it's overstuffed and lacking in the execution department. It felt sometimes like they threw all this visual panache, cinematic referencing, and even the choice to film almost everything on an iPhone 15 Pro Max, like they really did want to set out to make a movie that felt fresh and cool, and it is pretty fucking cool at times, but unfortunately all of these ideas unfolding on screen and technical choices and writing choices left me feeling bored because I didn't know what to pay attention to. Should we focus on the religious allegory, the dark, kooky Oz-esque coming-of-age story, the badass zombies, the whimsical folklore? This could be the amalgamation of planning a trilogy. My hope is that once Nia DaCosta's The Bone Temple sequel comes out, and then the third one, which Danny Boyle is apparently also directing, things in this first 28 Years Later may start to make more sense. I think it's a movie that I'm going to look back on and appreciate more with future rewatches. And while I've done a lot of criticizing, make no mistake, I will be at the first screening I can get for The Bone Temple, because if you watch my channel, you know one thing about me. Ideas can take a movie further than execution, and simply put, I have to see what Jimmy and Spike get up to in the next one. This movie is cool to think about and gave it some major brownie points the longer I muse on it. Imperfection on film can be beautiful, and Boyle and Garland's embracing of that makes for a titillating, if uneven and sometimes slow and confusing, piece of world-critical cinema. And I must admit, I have really enjoyed the process of exploring all the theories, themes, and ideas it presents, even if not all of them work as a complete theatrical experience. 28 Years Later is already becoming an important piece of art in conversation, especially given the potential unfolding of another weapons of mass destruction war the US is starting with Iran. History repeats itself and the loss of innocence again? 28 Days Later, anyone? What will be said about this movie years from now? It's quite Shakespearean all of a sudden, and 28 Years Later will absolutely appeal to those writerly sensibilities in the audience. In conclusion, 28 Years Later is a fascinating film, one that is very fun to think about, but one which suffers from a tonal dissonance and some shaky storytelling. The acting, performances, cinematography, and script are all excellent, but the editing and directing styles may leave some audience members like me scratching their heads. Still, it's a pretty cool piece of zombie pandemic cinema that will definitely spark some heated discussions in the comments section and amongst friend groups and cinema goers in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. What did you think of 28 Years Later? Did you absolutely love it, or did you leave it feeling a bit underwhelmed by its overproduction? Leave all the comments below, and before you go, don't forget to like and smash that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching this video and continuing to support the channel. Until next time, to all you absolute alphas out there, I'll look forward to seeing you at the Bone Temple in the near future.
We're down again! That's all the stars in the world!